High in the mountains of northern New Mexico, between Santa Fe and Taos, lies a most unique land. These are the villages held in the embrace of La Jicarita Mountain, small enclaves settled by Pueblo Indians and Spanish and Mexican explorers centuries ago. Today, the descendants of settlers, explorers, and indigenous people of southern Taos County live here in harmony with the traditions and customs passed down from generation to generation. A proud people whose roots are deep in the land they love and have a foothold in both the modern world and the history of their rich culture and heritage. These are the people of the Rio Lucio, Chamisal, and many other small villages surrounding Peñasco, New Mexico.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Antonia Roybal Atencio, and I go by the name Toni. And my sister Dila, her full name is Dila Fabiola Roybal Romero, and she goes by Dila. And then we have Emma, who is called Emma, and she's a Roybal Atencio as well. But anyway, and then my niece, her daughter, is sitting right here, Loretta. And before I forget, I might mention that Loretta took all these pictures of our family. There's 12 of us, and she was doing a project for a university, I believe, and she went to visit everyone where they lived in Colorado, New Mexico, wherever, and took the photos, and so we were able to use them in the tree, which made it look really fantastic. So thanks, Loretta. First of all, we want to thank the people here that invited us to participate in the to speak here today, as we did again last year. We really appreciate it, and we are very, very proud to be part of it, and we want to help however we can. Last year, we presented the Roybal family tree that I had just completed, and I'm going to go over it again just a little bit for those of you that were not here. But it took me, I forget that the mic is here. It took me months and months to put it all together, but I was able to trace the family, the Roybal family roots to 1630, and originating in Galicia, Spain, which is up in the north, and in a little town called Caldas de Reyes. That means hot springs for the kings. And it's true, I had the good fortune to visit that little town also last year. And it's in northern Spain, and also it's about the size of Española, and it's a beautiful little town, and a big river runs right through the middle of the town, and then all the hot springs are there, and so it's you could tell that the wealthy people would go there to vacation and use the hot springs. But anyway, it felt really familiar to me, I guess, because that's where the Roybals originated, and I just had this emotional feeling that I had like been there before, maybe not me, but maybe my ancestors. The first Roybal came to the Pojoaque, Jacona area via Mexico. His name was Ignacio Roybal. He was high-ranking officer in the Spanish Army. He settled in Jacona, that's near Pojoaque, and became a very wealthy man. Generations passed, and many of the Roybals settled in northern New Mexico, which included our father, Maximiliano Roybal. we grew up in Rio Lucio, and my sister Dila is going to share some information in a little while about what it was like to grow up in Rio Lucio. My mother's maiden name is Mascarenas, and we're working on the family tree. And I want to acknowledge my cousins Mascarenas who are sitting right here in front because they're going to be part of our Mascarenas tree. So I don't have it ready, but Dila and I are going to probably end up with something like this, really nice on Mascarenas' side. And we were able to trace the roots back to 1590 in Lisbon, they call it Lisboa in Spanish, Portugal, and 15 generations. This one is 12. So 15 is really something. We're dying to get into it and really find out everything. My mother's grandparents, my mother's name was Demetria Mascarenas Roybal. We used to call her DMR. She signed everything DMR. But her grandparents settled in Rio Lucio in what is now part of the Picuris Reservation. In the 40s, an agreement was reached between the Mascarenas family who had property that was near the reservation, and they wanted to trade. So that happened, and so the Mascarenas ended up across the river in the area called Rio Lucio. And the Picuris Native Americans had their land all in one section across on the other side of the river. So everyone was happy with that trade, and we have the document signed by President Roosevelt when the trade was initiated. And Emma, my sister, who's number 2 of the 12, remembers the move from the other side of the river, and I wanted to ask her to say a few words about what it was like. Emma, you want to come up for a minute?
There.
Hi, my name is Emma Atencio. Well, Roybal before and Atencio now. What I can remember is when we moved from the Indian reservation to our home, who was across the river. Like Tony said, we traded for the other side of the river. I remember going by wagon, my dad driving the wagon, and taking our furniture to the house we were to live in. It was only a 2-bedroom house made out of adobes, and we had to haul down the furniture from the back door, which was then a back door, now it's a window. One had to be down below, and the other guy holding the furniture down to where it was supposed to go. Anyway, we settled, and we had no water. We had no electricity then. We used to wash clothes in a tub and hang it outside like I still do now. Anyway, we worked a lot, but it was peaceful, it was happy. We would help each other out, helped our neighbors, went to bed early and got up early and did what we had to do, and helped our mom. The boys helped my dad. I enjoyed it. I think about that now, and it was very wonderful to be there doing what we did then. It's so different now. We'll never go back to that, but but remembering is one wonderful thing to do, because I still remember. I don't remember my parents having tractors, nothing, just a wagon to go where we had to go. We used to go to Dixon in the wagon too, which I live now, and didn't know then that I was gonna live there. But there I am, but I still love Peñasco. I come here. When my sister's here, Dila, I come and visit her. And I don't know what else to say because I was only 6 years old then. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Of the 12 children, 14 kids my mother had, and then adopted 2 more. Emma is number 2. I'm number 10, and Dila is number 12. She's the baby, the little child. And I told this little story last year because it's cute and funny and real. Dila used to come home from school. She was 6 years old. And she'd have my mother lay on the couch and pull out her breast, her chichi, so she could drink milk. And she had big teeth. I don't know how that would happen. But my mother did it. She loved her so much. She was the last one, and she just, she gave her teta. Okay, let me finish a little more about the Mascarenas. So they traded lands, the president signed the document, they moved, and now the Native Americans from Picuris were all on this side of the river, and our parents and the other Hispanic families were on the other side, which made everybody happy, I guess. And then DMR, Demetria, being the only daughter, and she had married Maximiliano Roybal, she was given a portion of the Mascarena property where they moved to. Because remember, it was the Mascarenas who owned it. And then Maximiliano bought out the brothers. That was Uncle John, Uncle Levardo, and I think there was 5 brothers. But he bought them out, so that property that was Mascarenas after the move became the Roybal property in Rio Lucio, which is where we grew up. And now I'm going to have Dila share a few comments about what it was like growing up in Rio Lucio in the house where we just loved, and one thing I do remember distinctly is when we all slept upstairs. It was like a barracks. Remember, there was a bunch of kids. So when we had to wake up to go to school, my mother would throw rocks on the roof because it was a tin roof, a laton, and we'd get up in a hurry, believe me. Dila, you want to go ahead? Thank you.
Okay, and I'm number 12. And I just want to say that Emma delivered me. She helped my mom. She delivered me because she was a nurse. And I also want to say that Emma is part of a book that was written, and it's called The Voices of Dixon. And it's very interesting. So if any of you have read it or you want to read it, she said they sell it at the library in Dixon. But she has a lot of information in that book about growing up in La Otra Banda, where we moved to, Rio Lucio. Anyway, like I said, like Tony said, we come from a big family. My mom actually had 14 children, 2 died, and then she adopted 2, legally adopted 2 other ones. So we were a very, very big family. I don't remember my grandfather, Mascarenas. I don't remember him at all, or my grandmother, because I was one of the younger ones. But I do remember a lot of memories, fun memories in Rio Lucio where we lived. We had a great big barn, chickens, horses, cows. It was just absolutely beautiful. I remember up in the mountains, caves. We had little houses, and just a really, really beautiful childhood. What I do remember also on my parents is that they instilled a lot of values. We were hardworking, have always been hardworking. I also remember my mom saying, you know, ayúdale a los que necesitan ayuda. Help those that need help. And she always said to be friendly with people. And one thing I always remember about my mom is when people came over, boy, you better shake their hand and you better introduce yourself. Otherwise, she would call you right back, and you better. So it was just a really, really nice growing up there. I want to say I read this little, it's not a poem, but it's a little story, and I read it probably about 10 years ago, and I saved it, and I wanted to kind of share it with you. And it's about this man that brought from the city, and he took his little boy to a farm, friends. And he wanted his son to know what it was like to live in a farm. And so he left him there for a week. And then a week later, he goes back for the little boy, and he says, so what do you think? How was it at the farm? And the little boy says, you know what, Dad? At home, we have a pool. We have a swimming pool. Over here, there's a great big river with no end. At home, we have lamps outside. Over here, you look at the stars and they never end. Over here, at home, we have one dog. Over here, people have 10 dogs. He says, I think we're richer than everybody else that lives here than the people in the city. So, you know, that was really neat. And that's how we grew up. That's how I remember. Thank you.